Welcome back, Chemistry 30. We got cut off in that last video, so continuing on. So the idea that if we do have metal ions, transition elements, if it has a high oxidation number, so the Roman numeral number which represents the charge, a rule of thumb, if it's 4 or larger, there's a good chance that we could be talking about covalent bonds here. So we looked at this manganese 7, manganese 4, chromate 4 here. So we could be, these ones could represent covalent bonding. All right. So that leads us to the last question here, dealing with some of these things that we talked about. So assume you have a yellow solid that melts at 41 degrees C and boils at 131. Now both of those are relatively small numbers, okay? And a green solid that melts at 2320, so 2320 degrees C. That's an extremely high value. If you're told that one of them is Cr2O3 and the other one is OSO4, which one do you expect to be the yellow one? Which one's the green one? Okay, so one thing that stands out here is this. This is a high number, which means it's going to be more polar, possibly even ionic. So the green solid, whichever one it is going to be the more polar one. It's closer to having ionic characteristics because of that high melting point. Okay, and the other one, the yellow solid, let's see here, the yellow solid melts here and here. Those are relatively low, so the yellow solid will be less polar, closer to covalent characteristics since it has such a small melting point. Okay, now, so we know what the substance are, we just don't know which one's which color belongs to which one. So if we take a look over here at Cr2O3, we could look up the electronegativity values from the Pauling table. If we did, we would get the following. We get Cr is 1.6, O is 3.5. So if I subtract those, I get 1.9. Okay? And of course, I just got that from the table there. OSO4, look at those values, 2.2, 3.5. So you can see there, I get a difference of 1.3. So comparing these two, this one has a larger difference, which means it's going to be more polar, maybe even close to ionic. It's close to 2.0, so it could be even ionic. Here we have 1.3, not a huge difference here, so it's going to be less polar. So comparing here, the green solid is the more polar one because it has that high melting point. And yellow is the less polar one, and we found out that OSO4 is definitely the less polar one. So to answer our question, the less polar one is yellow, and of course that must be that one. It must be OSO4 because it is a smaller number due to looking at the differences in electronegativity. Alright, so that's a pretty decent question there. Looking at boiling points, melting points, again, ionic substances have very high melting and boiling points, whereas covalent molecules have relatively low. And by low, we're talking about maybe 100 or 2. Okay? And then looking at differences in electronegativity, we can compare different types of bonds here and see which one is more polar. If it's a larger difference, it's going to be more polar than something that has a small difference which we consider less polar. Alright, so that marks the end of that section, folks, on electronegativity. We'll see you again.